Hello, and welcome to southwestern ponderosa pine, just outside of Flagstaff, Arizona. You can see from this video that the stand is composed 100% in this case of ponderosa pine. And this stand was treated 20 to 30 years ago with a density reduction, some kind of a thinning. What's noticeable is the lack of understory, the raised crowns, so we don't have a big bladder fuel component in this stand, but we do have fairly heavy fuel loading on the fourth floor due to the buildup of pine needles because it hasn't been treated with recent fire. This stand is slated to be treated in the next year with a treatment similar to one that I'll show you for a different stand. So this is pretty typical of our untreated condition around Flagstaff. This is just a similar view of the stand just to give you an idea of what the crowns really look like. In the distance, you can see an opening, and we're going to walk over to that opening in just a second and look at them a little closer. So a lot of the trees have pretty good crown ratios. This stand in particular doesn't have a lot of dwarf mistletoe. There's also no sign of a lot of bark beetle activity, although there are some scattered trees that have died from beetles, but nothing that would indicate the beetles are going to take off in here, especially post-treatment as the density is reduced even more. So here we're out in the opening, and we have these large old growth trees that were never harvested, and they're surrounded by these openings, and this opening was partially maintained through the past thinning 20 or 30 years ago. There's quite a few stumps in this opening that helped maintain the meadow characteristic, and you can see some established trees came in following that treatment, another old growth tree in there. This gives us an indication of what some of the historic conditions were. There were also some additional old growth stumps in the area. So a few of the old growth trees did get harvested at some point in the past. There's also more understory vegetation, which is a desirable characteristic, and a lot less needle cover. So now we've moved into an area that was treated about 1 year previously, and with a variety of different prescriptions. So this included areas that were thinned from below to up to 18 inches in diameter. So most trees below that were harvested in the thin from below areas. There was also areas that were free thinned, and again, all trees greater than 18 inches were retained in those areas. And then you can see in the distance a regeneration opening where all the trees were removed except for old growth trees. So no old growth trees were removed regardless of their diameter. And so where they were present, they were left. And then there were no cutting areas where all trees were retained. So you can see one of those patches in the background, a little bit denser. And finally, there are interspace areas where density was reduced to 40 to 60 square feet basal area. You can see the stumps in this regen opening and a fairly good component of grass, although there's some invasive species in here as well, but a lot of natives that have come back into this area pretty nicely just 1 year post-harvest.